If one had to describe Eurocamp in 2 words, I would expect them to say something like camping and comfiness.
Eurocamp is so relaxing and comfy as hell.
One of the, if not the comfiest show of the season.
The most comfy anime you'll ever watch.
In his video for the Anime News Network, Ember Reviews categorizes Eurocamp as a hobbies anime. A show not merely using its subject matter as an excuse for a cast of characters to act cute together, but rather trying to portray what makes it so special and interesting, and how it enriches the lives of those that engage in it.
Laid-back camp is primarily motivated by the characters' desires to interact with their chosen hobby, and how the characters develop and change as a result of interacting with camping.
But see, here's the thing. This portrayal of camping as a cozy, comfy activity is far removed from my own experience. Carrying a heavy tent along with unwieldy sleeping bag and mat, lying on uneven ground, freezing during the night and then drowning in sweat as soon as the sun rises up. All the dirt and bugs that inevitably get inside the tent, lining up to communal showers in the morning, and so on. If the show is about the pleasures of camping, and to me camping is not very pleasurable, then I'd expect it to fall flat on me, which is why despite how much focus it puts on the activity itself, I don't believe that's where the soul of the show actually lies. Jack from Under the Scope recalls camping experiences closer to my own, recounting everything that can go wrong and arguing that the show does portray both the highs and the lows of camping.
As its lead girls discover this new hobby together, their trips are filled with the same missteps. From not having the proper gear, to dead cell phones, and finding out a campsite is closed for the season only upon arrival. Hell, they even go through the same winter disaster I did.
This doesn't necessarily contradict the previously mentioned perspective. After all, overcoming hardships can be seen as an integral part of the experience. But it offers a different outlook at the show, looking past the subject matter and at the more universal human experience that sometimes accompanies it, one explored primarily through the character of Rin. In his video, Kamimashita talks about how the show empowers Rin by presenting her time spent alone as a conscious choice that serves to fulfill her needs as an introverted person.
Many parts of Eurocamp are of a solitary Rin embarking on yet another journey into nature, and she prefers to spend her winter nights curled up with a book rather than relishing in the company of friends.
Jack further expands on Rin's connection to nature, pointing out how valuable the time spent outdoors on your own can be. But that's still mostly camping related, and as I've said, I think Eurocamp touches on a more universal experience relating to solitude.
When Nadeshiko asks her why she enjoys doing things alone, Rin explicitly calls this out.
なんていうか、ソロキャンは寂しさも楽しむものなんだって。
I found this line very profound, and when I first watched that episode, it made me realize something about myself. You see, whenever I traveled somewhere solo, I would always get this distinct feeling that I found hard to identify. Maybe I would be trying to find my way in a foreign city, or looking for a nearby grocery store, or just walking around and sightseeing. And suddenly, I would just get hit by this intense wave of bittersweet melancholy. I used to interpret it as sadness, stemming from the fact that I don't have anyone to share this journey with, and longing for company. And maybe that's what it was, but that's because it's how I chose to internalize it. Rin, on the other hand, is making a conscious effort to appreciate loneliness. She sees her solo travels as something to cherish, fully taking in the experiences big and small, from wanting to ride on a particular road to planning out what she will eat and when. She can fully serve her whims independent of any companions. As Jack points out, even when she joins the club on one of the trips, she still chooses to exercise some amount of autonomy, tagging along on her own bike and using that freedom to separate from the group if she wants. They're together, but alone. The second season explores a couple more similar ideas that tackle the topic of how we perceive time and place in relation to traveling. While the girls are returning from the aforementioned trip, the part of the group traveling by car gets home sometime ahead of Rin. It's another one of those weird melancholic feelings that I never knew what to make of. Is the trip over once you're home, or is it over once everyone's home? You are physically already here and there's nothing to do but settle back into routine. But you know that someone you separated with just a few hours ago is still on their way, and that can give you a very dissonant emotion, making you feel all weird and restless. The situation also relates to one element of our lives that is still very recent, constant access to smartphones, whose chat applications and cameras encourage us to consistently check up on each other every now and then, and share cool parts of our lives through short updates and photographs, even during solo trips. And the funny thing about phones is that it doesn't matter if you're talking to someone who's a street away or half a country away. The experience is largely the same. So when worried Rin comes to check up on Nadeshko, despite the fact that they are talking on their phones, to meet there in person would feel weird. It's like they are supposed to be in two different places. Nadeshko is on a trip, meaning she shouldn't run into anyone she knows, and to bridge that space would feel like violating some law of nature. They could be bringing her home to her in spite of the physical distance. These weird unwritten rules continue into other areas. Rin and her grandpa are not very openly affectionate people, but you can tell that they care about each other very, very much, and they show it in their own subdued ways. It would feel weird for one of them to ask to ride together on their bikes and organize some sort of a trip. That's just not something they do. But when it happens organically, because they just happened to be heading in the same direction, they relish the opportunity. Again, it's all a matter of how they perceive this event. It's important to them that things happen organically, without forcing the matter. Even if someone from the outside could say, if you wanna ride together, then why don't you just ask? Sometimes what matters isn't just what occurs, but also how it comes about. The final example is the winter trip of Aoi, Chiaki and Ena. It turns out that their planning was insufficient. They didn't account for an environment where phone batteries drain more quickly, and underestimated just how cold it gets. They find themselves in, well, that's the thing. How do they know whether they cross the threshold of actual danger or if it's just inconvenience? There is another tent nearby that they can probably ask for help. But is it really necessary? Should they even stay at the campsite or go back to the town? It's interesting to think how in the age of mobile phones, on a leisurely activity of camping, in close proximity to other people, they aren't sure whether they are in danger of freezing or not, and thus whether it warrants interrupting their trip or not. They aren't sure how to perceive the reality of the situation. And that's the common thread I found between all the story elements that I've described. These scenarios surrounding camping and traveling that I wouldn't call weird or especially peculiar. And yet many of us find ourselves not entirely able to process them. Scenarios that challenge our perception of time and space, like what it means to be on a trip or to spend time with someone. So while it's true that Eurocamp is a splendid hobby anime about camping, and it's true that it's a nuanced and charming portrayal of the life of introverts, what I took away from it the most was the encouragement to think about the experiences more consciously, seek out circumstances that bring about new and unique feelings and explore what they mean to us, and use that knowledge to better understand ourselves and what we need from life, which very well might be a relaxing day spent in nature. And if you just want a hit of melancholy, maybe watching an episode will be enough. Or maybe just listening to Eri Sasaki's wonderful wistful ED.